CEO of a company called EdLeader21. His company is dedicated towards the transformation of schools into environments that foster 21st century learning. Mr. K has visited Wellesley quite a few times in the past couple of months to assemble a task force made up of Wellesley School administrators, educators, parents, and students to help develop the next 5-year academic plan for the district. I was a part of this task force, and in it I was able to collaborate with people in the community and see which skills really encompass 21st century learning. Now, in Mr. K's perspective, the 4 main aspects are creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, the 4 C's. But this isn't just a trend that's seen in Wellesley, or not even just Massachusetts. This is seen in many places around the world, especially the US and Europe, but not as much in the global south. And I'm talking about these countries right here, the ones that are shaded brown. Based on the standards of the UN Conference for Trade and Development, these are the countries that are developing. Now, this economic divide in the world exists, many people think, because of the flaws of the capitalist system and how businesses subjugate individuals. And they're not wrong, but they're not necessarily right either. The capitalist system has the power to cure the divides that it creates by encouraging entrepreneurship and self-started initiatives to solve local problems. After all, English philosopher John Locke did think that if there was a capitalist system where there were many small-scale businesses thriving together, that was his vision, which deviates from what we see right now with large conglomerates that are basically economic imperialists. And the virtues of capitalism were also supported by the failure of rigid, state-led economies like those of Soviet Russia and China. Ultimately, the Soviet method of collectivization failed because it deprived individuals of the autonomy and the incentive that was really needed to improve the economy. And this is why, towards the end of the 20th century, both Soviet Russia and China decided to privatize their enterprises, which was one of the main reasons why they're not a part of the global south right now. Now, if we're looking back at developing countries, now that they've won the freedom struggles that had occupied their nationalist agendas in the past century, this is the time for the tradition of routine labor to be replaced by creative entrepreneurship. And this is the realization made by this Afghan woman, Kamila Siddiqui. Under the rule of the Taliban in 1996, she decided to start a dressmaking business in the secrecy of her own home. During this time, the Taliban confined women to their homes and did not let them work. Now, this was an issue because many of their husbands were being sent off to war or they were being imprisoned, so there really wasn't a stable source of income. And by assessing the needs of her community, Mrs. Siddiqui started this dressmaking business and employed women around her community. And although her achievements were overshadowed by the current war in Afghanistan and the atrocities being committed there, she still left a lasting impact on both herself and the women around her. Another success story is that of Ogweng Mary, a Ugandan woman who heard of an international initiative called Bead for Life. Now, this organization teaches African women how to bead, has them bead clothing and jewelry, and sells these clothing and jewelry to places like the US or Europe. And with the money that they accumulate, they pay back the African woman. Mrs. Mary was very smart with the money that she made, and she invested in a sewing machine. With the sewing machine, she sewed sweaters for students at a local school, and by creating this mutually beneficial relationship with the school, she not only benefited herself economically, she also benefited the children at the school. She made enough money to build herself a brick house, and now her standard of living is much higher than it used to be. Now, these success stories are definitely rare. You don't see these everywhere. And I don't imagine a world where everyone can just walk outside and see that there's a problem and decide, hey, I'm going to start a business to solve this problem, because it's not realistic and the market can't sustain it. However, what I do imagine is that if some individuals decide to take the courage or the responsibility that is needed when they assess the needs of their community, then they can start a business and employ the people around them, and gradually the standard of living will increase, and hopefully we won't have to see something called the Global South ever again. In the end, it all comes back to the ideas of Ken K and how he sees 21st century learning. The idea of 21st century learning is a 21st century mindset. It's not fair to think that only a certain region of the world can use these skills of creativity and critical thinking, because really, these are just human skills that anyone can use. In the end, if we do embrace capitalism, then the world can be anyone's oyster. Thank you.